Do-hyun Kim sat at his desk, staring at the glowing screen in front of him. Numbers and codes filled the display, each one representing a piece of security data he needed to review. His job was not exciting, but it was important. He worked for a large company that handled trade agreements between humans and aliens. Every day, he made sure that the security systems were working properly. Every day, he checked for problems. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the clock. It was past midnight again. He had been working for 14 hours straight. Tomorrow would be the same. His life had become a pattern of work, sleep, and more work. The colony world of New Hansong never really slept. Humans and aliens walked the streets at all hours. Ships arrived and departed from the spaceport constantly. The city hummed with activity. But Do-hyun's apartment was his quiet refuge. When he finally arrived home at 1 a.m, he expected darkness and silence. Instead, soft lights glowed in his kitchen. A pleasant smell filled the air. Hana was still there, even though her shift had ended hours ago. She stood by the counter, preparing a late meal for him. Hana was his maid. She was a Velithron, one of the many alien species that now lived among humans. She looked mostly human, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that could almost pass for human in dim light. But her skin had a faint silver tint, and delicate patterns glowed softly under her skin. These bioluminescent markings were common among her people. They changed color with her mood, though Hana's always stayed a calm blue. "You should not have waited," Do-hyun said, setting his bag down. "Your shift ended at 6. Hana smiled gently. "I knew you would be late again. I prepared your favorite meal. You need to eat properly." This was typical of Hana. In the 6 months she had worked for him, she had been perfect. She cleaned his apartment until everything sparkled. She prepared his meals exactly how he liked them. She knew his schedule better than he did. She never complained, never asked for extra pay, and never made mistakes. Do-hyun's sister Yuna had recommended Hana for the job. Yuna was a xenobiologist who studied alien species. She had met Hana through her work and thought she would be perfect for Do-hyun's needs. At first, Do-hyun had been hesitant about hiring an alien maid. He worked with sensitive information, but Yuna had assured him that Hana had passed all background checks. She had excellent references, she was trustworthy, and she had been. For 6 months, everything had been perfect. Too perfect. Do-hyun ate the meal Hana had prepared while she cleaned the kitchen. He watched her work with practiced efficiency. She moved through his apartment like she had memorized every corner, every surface, every detail. She probably had. She was here every day while he was at work. After Hana left, Do-hyun sat in his living room, unable to sleep despite his exhaustion. Something had been bothering him for the past few weeks. Small things, tiny details that did not quite fit. He was a security analyst. His job was to notice patterns and find problems. And he had started noticing a pattern with Hana. Last week, he had come home early due to a system malfunction at work. He had found Hana in his study, standing by his desk. She had said she was dusting. But his desk had been cleaned that morning. 2 weeks ago, he had woken in the middle of the night and heard soft sounds from the living room. When he investigated, Hana was gone. But his personal terminal had been moved slightly. She had access to his apartment, so her being there was not unusual. But why would she be there at 3 a.m? Then there were the questions. Hana often asked about his work. It seemed like innocent curiosity at first. She would ask what he did that day, or if his job was interesting. But lately, her questions had become more specific. She asked about the types of security systems he worked with. She asked about the companies he dealt with. She asked about quantum encryption. Do-hyun stood and walked to his study. This room was supposed to be private. He kept work files here, though nothing classified. He was not allowed to bring highly sensitive material home, but he did have general information about security protocols and system designs. He sat at his desk and looked around the room. Everything appeared normal. The books on the shelf were neatly arranged. The papers on his desk were in order. The ventilation grate on the wall was clean. He stared at that grate. It was part of the environmental system, controlling airflow through the apartment. Hana cleaned it regularly to prevent dust buildup. Something made him stand and walk to the grate. He ran his fingers along the edge. It felt loose. He pulled gently, and the cover came away easily. Too easily. Behind it, tucked into the ventilation shaft, was a small data chip. Do-hyun's heart began to beat faster. He took the chip and examined it under his desk light. It was a storage device, capable of holding enormous amounts of information. It was not his. He had never put anything in that ventilation shaft. But Hana cleaned this room every day. Hana had access to everything. He sat back down, holding the chip in his hand. His mind raced through possibilities. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it had been there before Hana started working for him. Maybe it belonged to the previous tenant. But his instincts told him otherwise. His training told him otherwise. This was wrong. Do-hyun looked at his terminal. He could plug in the chip and see what was on it. But if Hana was involved in something illegal, accessing the chip might alert whoever she was working for. He needed to be smart about this. He needed to investigate carefully. He put the chip back exactly where he had found it, and replaced the grate cover. If Hana had put it there, she would check on it. If she noticed it had been disturbed, she might run. He needed to catch her in the act, to understand what she was really doing. Do-hyun went to bed that night, but sleep did not come easily. His mind kept going over the past 6 months. Every conversation with Hana, every question she had asked, every moment she had been alone in his apartment. He had trusted her completely. His sister had vouched for her. But trust could be misplaced. Trust could be a weapon. In his work, Do-hyun had learned that the greatest security vulnerabilities came from the inside. People who had access. People who were trusted. People who were never suspected. If Hana was not what she seemed, then she had chosen her position carefully. A maid had access to everything. A maid was invisible. A maid could search through a home without raising suspicion. The next morning, Do-hyun began planning his investigation. He could not tell his company yet. He had no proof. He could not tell the authorities. They would want evidence. He needed to handle this himself. At least at first. He needed to know the truth. He arrived at work and immediately started researching. He used his security clearance to access information about Velithrans. He read about their culture, their psychology, their history with humans. He looked up Hana's background again, this time more carefully. Everything seemed legitimate. But if she was a spy, it would be. That evening, when he came home, Hana was there as always. She greeted him with her gentle smile. She prepared his dinner. She asked about his day. And Do-hyun answered normally, pretending nothing had changed. But everything had changed. He was no longer looking at his helpful maid. He was looking at a potential threat. And he needed to know what she was really after. Do-hyun spent the next 3 days planning. He could not be reckless. If Hana was truly a spy, she would be trained to detect surveillance. She would know how to spot someone watching her. He needed to be careful and smart. At work, he had access to advanced monitoring equipment. His company used it to test security systems. Do-hyun signed out several small cameras and audio devices, claiming he needed them for a project. Nobody questioned him. He was trusted. Just like Hana was trusted in his home. He installed the first camera on a Friday evening, after Hana had left for the day. He placed it inside a small plant on his bookshelf, angling it toward his desk. The camera was tiny, no bigger than a button. It would record everything and send the footage to a secure server he had set up. He installed 2 more cameras in his living room and bedroom. He placed audio devices in the ventilation system. Within 2 hours, his entire apartment was under surveillance. The next morning, Do-hyun left for work at his usual time. But instead of going to his office, he went to a nearby cafe. He opened his laptop and accessed the camera feeds. He could now watch his apartment in real time. He settled in to watch and wait. Hana arrived at 8 in the morning, exactly on time. She used her key to enter the apartment. For the first hour, she cleaned normally. She vacuumed the floors, dusted the furniture, and organized the kitchen. Everything appeared completely innocent. Do-hyun almost felt guilty for suspecting her. Then she finished the cleaning. It was only 9:30. Normally, Hana would leave around noon after preparing his lunch and doing any other tasks. But instead of leaving, she walked to his study. She closed the door behind her. Do-hyun leaned closer to his screen. The camera in his study showed Hana approaching his desk. She looked around carefully, as if checking to make sure she was alone. Then she turned on his personal terminal. The screen came to life, showing the login page. Hana pulled out a small device from her pocket. It looked like a simple data pad. But when she placed it against the terminal, numbers began scrolling across both screens. She was hacking his system. Do-hyun watched in silence as his terminal accepted her device and logged in without a password. Hana worked quickly. She opened his files and began copying them to her device. She focused on his work files, the ones that contained information about security protocols and system designs. She copied everything, her fingers moving with practiced efficiency. After 20 minutes, she finished. She disconnected her device, shut down the terminal, and carefully moved everything back to its original position. Then she checked the ventilation grate. She removed the cover and took out the data chip. She looked at it briefly, then put it back and replaced the cover. She was checking to make sure it was still there. Hana left the study and continued with her normal routine. She prepared lunch and left it in the kitchen for Do-hyun. Then she departed the apartment at noon. Just like always, anyone watching would think she had done nothing but clean, but Do-hyun had seen everything. His hands were shaking as he closed his laptop. Hana was not just a maid. She was a spy. And she had been stealing his information for months. He felt anger rise in his chest, mixed with a deep sense of betrayal. He had trusted her. His sister had trusted her. How long had this been going on? He forced himself to calm down. Anger would not help. He needed to think clearly. He needed more information. One instance of spying was not enough. He needed to understand the full scope of what Hana was doing. He needed to know who she was working for and what they wanted. Over the next week, Do-hyun watched Hana carefully. He maintained his normal routine, going to work and coming home late. But now he spent his days monitoring the camera feeds. Every day, Hana followed the same pattern. She cleaned for an hour, then spent time in his study, copying files. Sometimes she took photos of documents with a small camera hidden in her bracelet. Sometimes she spoke quietly into a communication device, reporting information in a language Do-hyun did not recognize. He began researching Velithron intelligence operations. Using his security clearance, he accessed classified files about alien espionage activities. What he found troubled him. Several human colonies had reported suspected Velithron spies in recent years. The Velithron government denied these accusations, but the evidence was mounting. They were interested in human technology, specifically quantum computing and encryption systems. Humanity was new to the galactic community. Humans had only made first contact with aliens 20 years ago. Most alien species had been traveling through space for thousands of years. They had advanced technology and established civilizations. Humans were the newcomers, the primitives who had barely left their home planet. But humans had one advantage that surprised the older species. Human computer technology had developed along a different path. While aliens had focused on biological computing and neural networks, humans had mastered quantum mechanics. Human quantum encryption was unlike anything in the known galaxy. It was nearly impossible to break. And now, every government wanted it. Do-hyun realized what Hana was after. She was not just stealing general information. She was specifically targeting anything related to quantum systems. His work involved security protocols for quantum encrypted communications. His files contained technical specifications, system designs, and protocol implementations. If Hana delivered this information to her government, they could potentially break human encryption. They could read every secure message humanity sent. The implications were staggering. Trade secrets would be exposed. Military communications could be intercepted, diplomatic negotiations would be compromised. Humanity's one major advantage in the galactic community would be lost. Do-hyun made a decision. He could not simply report Hana to the authorities. If he did, she would be arrested. But her network would survive. There had to be others. Spy operations never relied on a single person. If Hana disappeared, her handlers would know something was wrong. They would pull out their other agents, and humanity would never know the full extent of the infiltration. He needed a better plan. He needed to make Hana reveal her entire network. He needed to turn this situation to humanity's advantage. But how? The answer came to him one evening as he watched Hana on his monitor. She was speaking into her communication device, reporting her daily findings. Her bioluminescent markings glowed a steady blue. She appeared calm and confident. She believed she was safe. She believed humans were too trusting, too naive to suspect her. That was her weakness. She underestimated humans. Most aliens did. They saw humanity as a young species, barely out of childhood compared to civilizations thousands of years old. They did not understand that humans had spent their entire evolutionary history competing against each other. Deception, strategy, and psychological warfare were written into human nature. Earth had been a proving ground for countless cultures and conflicts. Humans knew how to lie. They knew how to manipulate. They knew how to set traps. Do-hyun would use that knowledge. He would set a trap that Hana could not escape. He would confront her, but not before he had every advantage. He would make her believe she had no choice but to cooperate, and through her, he would expose the entire spy network. But first, he needed help. He called his sister Yuna. When she answered, he could see the concern on her face through the video call. Do-hyun, what is wrong? You look terrible. We need to talk, he said. About Hana. In person. Do not call her. Do not message her. Just come to my apartment tonight. It is important. Yuna agreed, though confusion filled her eyes. That evening, Do-hyun showed her the recordings. He showed her everything Hana had been doing. His sister watched in silence, her face growing pale. I recommended her, Yuna whispered. I brought her into your home. I am so sorry. It is not your fault, Do-hyun said. She fooled both of us. But now we need to stop her. I need your help. Yuna sat across from her brother, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had gone cold. She had been studying the recordings for hours. Her expertise as a xenobiologist helping her understand Hana's behavior patterns. Velithrons are logical, Yuna explained. Their entire culture is built on predictability and order. They plan everything carefully. They do not like surprises or emotional chaos. That is why Hana has been so methodical. She follows a schedule. She never deviates from her routine. How does that help us? Do-hyun asked. It means she will struggle when confronted with something unpredictable. Humans are chaotic by nature. We act on emotion. We change our minds. We do things that do not follow logical patterns. If you confront her in a way she cannot predict, you will have an advantage. Do-hyun thought about this. He had been planning a direct confrontation, catching Hana in the act and forcing her to surrender. But Yuna was suggesting something different. Make the confrontation itself unpredictable. Keep Hana off balance. I accessed her file again, Yuna continued. I looked deeper this time. Her references were perfect, but they were too perfect. Every answer matched exactly what you would want to hear. No small flaws, no minor issues. Real references always have some criticism. Some area where the person could improve. Hana's references read like they were written by someone who had studied human hiring practices and created the ideal profile. So she was planted from the beginning, Do-hyun said. Yes, which means she has handlers. She reports to someone. And based on what she has been stealing, this is a major intelligence operation. Yuna paused. When will you confront her? Soon. She has been preparing to extract the data. I saw her checking the hidden chip multiple times today. I think she is planning to leave within the next 48 hours. One of them they spent the rest of the evening preparing. Do-hyun made subtle changes to his apartment. He moved furniture slightly. He changed the lighting. He adjusted the temperature, small things that Hana would notice. He wanted her to feel that something was different, that her carefully controlled environment was shifting. He also activated the security protocols built into his apartment. As a security analyst, working with sensitive information, his home had hidden defenses, electromagnetic locks on the doors and windows, signal jammers that could block all communications, reinforced walls that could turn the entire apartment into a secure facility. These features were meant to protect him from outside threats. Now he would use them to trap someone inside. On the second night, Do-hyun returned home late. He had spent the day acting normally, going to work and maintaining his routine. But tonight would be different. Tonight, Hana had a different plan. The apartment was dark when he entered. Hana should not be there. Her shift had ended hours ago. But Do-hyun's instincts told him she was inside. He could feel it. He turned on the lights and walked through the living room, making noise, letting her know he was home. Then he went to his study. The door was closed. He opened it quickly. Hana stood by his desk, the data chip in her hand. She had been caught in the act of retrieving it. Her bioluminescent markings flared bright orange, a sign of alarm among her species. For a moment, neither of them moved. "I know what you are," Do-hyun said calmly. He stepped into the room and closed the door behind him, positioning himself between Hana and the only exit. Hana's face remained composed, but her markings betrayed her emotions. They flickered between orange and red. "I do not know what you mean. I was cleaning and found this device. I was going to ask you about it. Do not lie to me." Do-hyun pulled out his tablet and showed her the recordings. Her face as she hacked his terminal. Her hands as she copied files. Her voice as she reported to her handlers. "I have been watching you for 2 weeks. I know everything." The color drained from Hana's silver skin. Her markings turned a deep purple, a color Do-hyun had never seen before. Fear, he realized. She was afraid. "You are a spy," Do-hyun continued. "You work for Velithron Intelligence. You have been stealing information about human quantum encryption systems. You were planning to extract this data tonight and deliver it to your handlers." Hana stood silent for a long moment. Then her posture changed. The gentle, submissive maid disappeared. In her place stood someone else entirely. Her eyes became sharp and calculating. Her body tensed. Ready for action. "You should not have investigated alone," she said. Her voice was different now, colder and more confident. "You should have reported me to your authorities. Now you are alone with me, and I am trained for combat." "You are not." "You are right," Do-hyun said. "I am not a soldier. I am just a security analyst. But I am not stupid either." He pressed a button on his tablet. The door behind him locked with a heavy click. The windows sealed shut. The lights changed to emergency red. Throughout the apartment, electromagnetic locks engaged. Signal jammers activated, cutting off all communications to the outside world. Hana immediately reached for the communication device on her wrist. Nothing happened. She tried again, her movements becoming frantic. No signal could get in or out. "This apartment is now a secure facility," Do-hyun explained. "All exits are locked with military-grade security. All communications are blocked. The walls are reinforced. Even if you were strong enough to break through a door, which you are not, the security forces would arrive before you made it outside. And they are already on their way. I activated the emergency protocol when I came home. They will be here in 15 minutes. Hana looked around the room, searching for options. She moved to the window and pushed against it. It did not budge. She tried the door. Locked. She looked at the ventilation grate, but it was far too small for her to fit through. "There is no way out," Do-hyun said. "I have been planning this for 2 weeks, Ever since I found your data chip, I knew you would come for it eventually. I knew you would choose a time when you thought I would be out late. But I have been tracking your patterns too. I know how you think. And I was ready. Hana turned to face him. Her markings had turned almost black now, cycling through emotions too quickly to identify. You will arrest me. I will say nothing. My government will deny everything. You have gained nothing. That is where you are wrong, Do-hyun said. He walked to his desk and sat down, projecting calm confidence. I am not interested in simply arresting you. That accomplishes nothing. Your network would disappear. Your handlers would extract their other agents. We would be back where we started. Then what do you want? I want you to work for me. I want you to help me identify every member of your network. I want you to help us expose this entire operation, and in return, I will make sure you are treated fairly. Reduced sentence, protection, maybe even a new life. Hana laughed, but there was no humor in it. Why would I betray my people? Why would I help humans? Because you have no choice, Do-hyun said simply. And because I am about to tell you something that will change everything you think you know about this mission. He stood and walked to face her directly. Your operation has already failed. Your handlers have been feeding false information back to your government for months. We have known about your network since the beginning. We allowed it to continue so we could map out the entire structure. The data you have been stealing? Some of it is completely fabricated. Your government has been building their systems based on false specifications. When they try to use what you have given them, it will fail spectacularly. Hana stared at him in disbelief. You are lying. Am I? Do-hyun pulled up more files on his tablet. Look at this. These are communications we intercepted from your handlers. Look at the dates. We have been monitoring you for 6 months, since the day you started working here. He showed her the evidence. Message after message. Surveillance reports. Analysis documents. Everything proved that human intelligence services had been running a counter-operation all along. Hana had been part of an elaborate trap, and she never knew it. Her legs seemed to give out. She sat down heavily on the floor, her markings fading to a dull gray. This cannot be true. It is, Do-hyun said. Your mission was compromised before it even started. You have been working for nothing. Your government has been building systems that will not work. And now, you have a choice. Help us, or spend the rest of your life in prison knowing that you failed and your people were deceived. The sound of vehicles pulling up outside reached them. The security forces had arrived. Hana looked up at Do-hyun, and he saw something in her eyes he had not expected. Respect. Humans are more dangerous than we thought, she whispered. The security team entered the apartment with weapons drawn. They were professionals, moving quickly and efficiently through each room. Their leader was a man named Jae-won Choi, head of counterintelligence for the colonial security forces. He was tall and thin, with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. He looked at Hana sitting on the floor, then at Do-hyun standing calmly nearby. You were right, Jae-won said. She came for the data tonight. As predicted, Do-hyun replied. Jae-won turned to Hana. You are under arrest for espionage against the human colonial government. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. 2 officers moved forward to restrain Hana. She did not resist. Her markings remained dull gray. All fight gone from her body. They placed magnetic cuffs on her wrists and led her to the living room. Jae-won gestured for Do-hyun to follow. In the living room, they sat Hana on the couch. Officers stood guard at every exit. Jae-won pulled up a chair and sat across from her. Do-hyun remained standing, watching. Let me explain your situation, Jae-won began. We have been tracking your network for 8 months. We know about your 3 handlers in the diplomatic district. We know about the other 4 agents working in various positions across the colony. We know about your communication protocols, your dead drops, and your extraction routes. We have intercepted 47% of your transmissions and decoded them. We have identified your contact back on the Velithron homeworld. Hana's eyes widened slightly. Jae-won continued. 2 weeks ago, We discovered that your government is planning to use the information you stole to develop new encryption-breaking technology. They plan to announce this breakthrough at the next Galactic Council meeting. They believe it will give them leverage in trade negotiations. But there is a problem. He pulled out a tablet and showed it to Hana. The specifications you stole are fake. Well, not entirely fake. They are real enough to seem authentic. Real enough that your scientists will spend years trying to build systems based on them. But they contain subtle errors, mathematical flaws that are nearly impossible to detect until you try to actually use the technology. When your government demonstrates their new encryption-breaking system, it will fail. Publicly, in front of the entire Galactic Council, Hana stared at the tablet. Her markings flickered weakly. You planned this from the beginning. Yes, Jae-won said. Do-hyun was part of the operation. We identified you as a potential spy 3 months before you applied to work for him. We arranged for his sister to meet you. We made sure she would recommend you for the job. We gave you access to exactly the information we wanted you to steal. Do-hyun felt a strange mix of emotions. He had genuinely liked Hana. He had trusted her. Learning that the entire relationship had been orchestrated made him feel manipulated, even though he was supposedly on the winning side. He wondered if Hana felt the same way. Why tell me this now? Hana asked. Why not just let me continue to believe the mission was successful? Why? Because we want something more than just a failed spy operation, Jae-won said. He leaned forward. We want you to work for us. We want you to help us identify and turn the other agents in your network. We want you to feed specific information back to your handlers. Information that will benefit humanity. We want to turn your entire operation into an asset for human intelligence. I will never betray my people, Hana said. But her voice lacked conviction. Your people have already betrayed you, Do-hyun said, speaking for the first time since the officers arrived. Do you really think your handlers told you the truth about this mission? Do you think they cared about you at all? He sat down next to Jae-won. Let me tell you what we learned from the intercepted communications. Your handlers knew this mission was high risk. They knew there was a good chance you would be caught, but they did not care. They sent you anyway because you were expendable. They have 6 other operations running simultaneously. If one fails, the others continue. You were just a number to them. Hana's markings flickered red. Anger. And there is more, Do-hyun continued. The reason they sent you specifically is because you are young. You only joined their intelligence service 2 years ago. You do not know enough about their operations to cause serious damage if you are captured. You were chosen because you were the most expendable agent they had. That is not true, Hana said. But doubt crept into her voice. Jae-won pulled up another file. This is a communication between your handlers. Read it yourself. He showed her the screen. Hana read in silence. The color drained from her face. Her markings turned purple again. The communication was clear. Her handlers had discussed her mission and explicitly stated that her capture would be acceptable. She was meant to be a distraction, drawing attention while more important agents worked elsewhere. They used you, Do-hyun said gently. Just like they will use whoever they send next. Just like they use everyone who works for them. That is how intelligence services operate. Nobody is safe. Nobody is valued. Everyone is expendable. Hana sat in silence for a long time. Her markings slowly shifted colors as she processed this information. Finally, she looked up at Jae-won. What exactly do you want from me? Full cooperation, Jae-won said. You will identify every member of your network. You will explain your communication protocols. You will continue to send reports to your handlers, but we will control what information goes to them. You will become a double agent, working for us, while your government believes you are still working for them. And what do I get in return? Protection. A reduced sentence. After you have served your time, you can choose. You can return to your homeworld. Though I doubt you would be welcome after this, or you can stay here and build a new life. We will help you with a new identity, a new job, a fresh start. And if I refuse, then you go to prison for 20 years. Your network gets arrested. Your government suffers the embarrassment of a failed operation but faces no real consequences. Nothing changes except you lose 2 decades of your life. Hana looked at Do-hyun. You knew from the beginning. Every conversation we had. Every meal we shared. You were watching me. Studying me. You were never my friend. No, Do-hyun admitted. But I was not your enemy either. I was just doing my job, like you were doing yours. The difference is that my job was successful, and yours was not. Something in his honesty seemed to reach her. Her markings settled into a steady blue, the same calm color she had always shown before. I need time to think, she said. You have 5 minutes, Jae-won replied. After that, we need your decision. Cooperate, or go to prison. Those are your only options. The room fell silent. Officers stood guard. Jae-won and Do-hyun waited. Hana sat with her head bowed, her hands still bound. She was thinking, calculating, trying to find another option, but Do-hyun knew she would find none. He had made sure of that. After 4 minutes, Hana raised her head. I will cooperate. But I want something in addition to what you offered. What? Jae-won asked. I want to meet with the person who designed this operation, the one who planned everything from the beginning. I want to understand how you caught us so completely. I want to learn from the person who outsmarted our entire intelligence network. Jae-won and Do-hyun exchanged glances. Then Jae-won smiled slightly. You are looking at him. Do-hyun designed this operation. He identified you as a potential spy, recommended bringing you in, and set up the entire trap. He is just a security analyst, but he thinks like a spy master. Hana looked at Do-hyun with new understanding. You are more than just an analyst. No, Do-hyun said. I am exactly what I appear to be. I just understand that the best weapon is not strength or technology. It is information, and patience, and the ability to think several steps ahead. Hana nodded slowly. Humans are dangerous because you hide your fangs until the moment you strike. We prefer to think of it as being strategic, Jae-won said. Now, let us begin. Tell us everything about your network. And Hana did. For the next 6 hours, she talked. She revealed names, locations, communication methods, and operational procedures. She exposed the entire spy network that had been operating on New Hansong for over a year. With every piece of information she provided, humanity's counterintelligence operation grew stronger. Do-hyun listened to it all, taking notes and asking questions. He felt no satisfaction in Hana's defeat. He felt only the weight of necessity. This was the price of security in a galaxy where humanity was still the newcomer, still the species trying to prove it belonged among the stars. 3 months had passed since the night Do-hyun confronted Hana in his study. The colony of New Hansong looked the same from the outside. Ships still arrived and departed. Humans and aliens still walked the streets together. Trade continued. Life went on. But beneath the surface, everything had changed. The Velithron spy network had been completely dismantled. All 8 agents, including Hana, had been arrested. Their handlers had fled the colony before they could be caught. But their names and faces were now known to every human intelligence service in the galaxy. The diplomatic incident that followed was severe. The Velithron government denied everything, claiming the agents were acting independently. But the evidence was too strong to ignore. Do-hyun sat in his new office, larger and more prestigious than his old one. His promotion had come quickly after the successful operation. He was now a senior analyst in counterintelligence, working directly under Jae-won. His job was to identify and neutralize threats to human security across multiple colonies. It was important work, but he found himself missing the simplicity of his old life. His tablet chimed. A message from Jae-won requested his presence in the interrogation wing. Do-hyun stood and made his way through the secure facility. He passed through 3 security checkpoints before reaching the wing where high-value detainees were held. Hana was in a comfortable room, not a cell. She had cooperated fully, providing invaluable intelligence. In return, She was being treated well. She had access to books, entertainment, and regular exercise. She was still a prisoner, but a privileged one. Jae-won was waiting outside her room. "She asked to see you," he said. "She has been working on something and wants your opinion." "What is it?" "A detailed analysis of Velithron intelligence operations. She has been writing it for the past month. She says it will help us understand how her people think, how they plan operations, how they recruit agents. It could be extremely valuable." Do-hyun entered the room. Hana sat at a desk, surrounded by papers and datapads. She looked different now. Her bioluminescent markings were lighter, almost white. It was a color that indicated acceptance, peace. She had found some kind of balance in her captivity. "Hello, Do-hyun," she said. Her voice was calm, friendly even. "Hello, Hana. Jae-won said you wanted to see me." She gestured to the papers on her desk. "I have been thinking a lot about what happened, about how humans caught us so easily, about why we failed so completely. And I realized something important." "What is that?" "We underestimated you. Not just me, but my entire government. All the older species in the galaxy underestimate humanity. They see you as children, barely out of your cradle world. They think your technology is primitive and your culture is chaotic. They believe you will be easy to manipulate and control." She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city sprawled across the landscape, a mix of human and alien architecture. "But they are wrong. Humans are not weak. You are dangerous in ways that most species cannot comprehend." "How so?" Do-hyun asked, genuinely curious. "Most intelligent species evolved in relatively peaceful environments. They had few natural predators. Their evolution was driven by cooperation and logic. They developed technology and society through rational thinking and collective effort." Hana turned to face him. "But humans evolved differently. You had predators. You had competitors. Your own species fought against itself for millions of years. Your planet was a battleground where only the clever survived." She walked back to her desk and picked up one of her reports. "This shaped how humans think. You are natural strategists. You understand deception because you used it to survive. You understand warfare because you practiced it for thousands of years. You understand psychology because you needed to predict what others would do in order to stay alive. These skills are written into your genes." Do-hyun listened carefully. This was not what he had expected to hear. "When I was trained as a spy, I was taught to be logical and methodical. Follow the plan. Gather information. Systematically. Report regularly. Trust the system." Hana shook her head. "But you did not follow any system. You trusted your instincts. You noticed small details that did not fit patterns. You took risks. You planned not just one step ahead, but 5 steps ahead. You thought like a predator, not like a bureaucrat." "That is an interesting analysis," Do-hyun said. "It is more than interesting. It is important. My government needs to understand this. All the older species need to understand this. Humans are not primitive newcomers. You are survivors who have been training for galactic competition your entire evolutionary history. You just did not know it until you reached the stars." She handed him a data pad. "This is my full report. It explains everything I have learned about human psychology, strategy, and methodology. I want you to read it. I want you to understand how we see you, and how that view is wrong." Do-hyun took the data pad. "Why are you helping us? You could have stayed silent. You could have served your time and revealed nothing." "Because I was betrayed by my own people," Hana said simply. "Because they saw me as expendable. Because they lied to me about the mission and sent me into a trap. But mostly because I have learned to respect humans. You defeated me fairly. You were clever and patient. You earned your victory. I can respect that." She sat down again, her markings pulsing gently. "And perhaps because I have come to understand that my government was wrong to spy on you in the first place. Humans are willing to share technology. You want peaceful trade and cooperation. If we had simply asked for what we wanted, you might have negotiated. Instead, we chose deception and theft. That was our mistake." A knock at the door interrupted them. Jaewon entered. "The tribunal has reached a decision about your sentence." Hana stood, her markings flickering with nervousness. What did they decide? 5 years in a minimum security facility, followed by parole. You will serve as a consultant for human intelligence services during and after your sentence. After 10 years total, you will be free to choose your own path. The tribunal considered your full cooperation and decided that you have earned leniency. Relief washed over Hana's face. 5 years was far less than the 20 she had been facing. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Thank Do-hyun," Jaewon replied. "He testified on your behalf. He told the tribunal that you were a victim of your own government's manipulation. He argued for mercy." "Tribe." Hana looked at Do-hyun in surprise. "Why would you do that? I spied on you. I stole from you. I betrayed your trust." "Because you were doing your job, just like I was doing mine," Do-hyun said. "Because you chose cooperation when you could have chosen silence. Because I believe people deserve second chances when they earn them." He extended his hand. After a moment, Hana shook it. Her markings glowed a warm gold, a color that indicated gratitude and respect. Later that evening, Do-hyun met his sister Yuna at a restaurant overlooking the city. They sat on the terrace, watching ships land and depart from the spaceport. "How are you feeling about everything?" Yuna asked. "Strange," Do-hyun admitted. "I spent months setting a trap for Hana. I watched her every move. I planned her downfall. But now that it is over, I feel no satisfaction. Just tiredness." "That is because you are not a spy," Yuna said. "You are a good person who had to do difficult things. There is a difference." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Yuna spoke again. "Do you think there will be more spies? More attempts to steal our technology?" "Yes," Do-hyun said without hesitation. "As long as humans have something others want, there will be people trying to take it. That is the reality of the galaxy. But now we know what to look for. Now we understand that we cannot trust everyone just because they seem friendly. We have learned to be cautious." "That seems sad," Yuna said. "I always hoped that reaching the stars would mean the end of suspicion and conflict." "Maybe someday," Do-hyun replied. "But not yet. Right now, humans are still proving ourselves. We are still showing the galaxy that we belong here. And part of that means defending ourselves against those who would exploit our trust." He looked up at the stars scattered across the night sky. Somewhere out there were countless worlds, countless species, countless opportunities and dangers. Humanity had joined that vast community only recently. They were young and inexperienced compared to civilizations thousands of years old. But they were learning quickly. They were adapting. They were surviving. "The galaxy thought we would be easy targets," Do-hyun said quietly. "They thought our youth made us weak. But they forgot that youth also means energy, creativity, and the willingness to take risks. They forgot that humans spent their entire history learning to survive against impossible odds. We are not the strongest species, or the smartest, or the most advanced, but we are survivors. And that counts for something." Yuna smiled. "When did you become so philosophical?" "When I realized that catching one spy was not just about security," Do-hyun said. "It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Humans can defend themselves. Humans cannot be easily fooled. Humans are worth respecting." He raised his glass. "To humanity's place in the stars. May we always be underestimated by our enemies, until the moment we prove them wrong." Yuna clinked her glass against his. Below them, the city of New Hansong continued its endless activity. Humans and aliens working together, living together, building a future together. It was not perfect. There were still dangers and deceptions, but it was progress. And for now, that was enough.